Last night, despite Tom Glavine's magnificent performance, the Braves were shut out by the Yankees' Andy Pettitte, Kenny Rogers, and Mike Stanton. In the 10th, Luis Sojo brought home the game winner as the Yankees took game 1 of the series. Tonight, Denny Dangle will try to break the 5-game losing streak against the Yankees, going for his 12th win. Game 1 of the series certainly lived up to its billing. Tonight it's back to Yankee Stadium for Game 2 between the Atlanta Braves and the New York Yankees. Hi, everybody. Pete Van Weren welcoming you to New York. Braves and Yankees about to go at it. Game 2 of this 3-game series, second round of interleague play. And, Joe, the Braves continue to have problems with the New York Yankees in particular and with the American League in general.
Yeah, the record overall against the American League in this interleague play, not so good, Pete. They're only 2-5. And some close ball games, as you can see, and 3 of the losses in extra innings, which tells you the bats have not really come through when they've needed them to. And they've had men on base, rather, they've left them stranded. Half of the runners that you're looking at that have been stranded have been left on from the 7th inning on, so they're not getting the key hits to give the pitching some support. So it's obvious the pitching has been doing their jobs. For example, Tom Glavine has worked 18 innings against 2 interleague opponents. He has not yet allowed an earned run, yet 2 no decisions, and a guy going for the Braves tonight threw a shutout at Toronto.
The only team in Major League Baseball with a worse interleague record than Atlanta, the Philadelphia Phillies, who are 1-6, and the Braves don't want to be in that company. They'll see if they can do something about that tonight. Game 2 of the series with the Yankees just around the corner. We'll have the starting lineups and all the action right after this.
Hitter Ryan Klesko's back in the lineup. He'll bat 5th and play left field. Andrew Jones moves down to the 6th spot in center field. Javi Lopez will do the catching, batting 7th. Keith Lockhart will be the DH tonight, batting 8th, and back in the lineup to play second base, and batting 9th tonight will be Mark Lemke. Defensively for the Yankees, the same outfield as last night with Whitten, Curtis, and O'Neill from left to right. Same infield with Hayes, Jeter, Sojo, and Martinez. Jorge Posada will be behind the plate, and on the mound will be 25-year-old Panamanian Ramiro Mendoza. He is 6'2", and a rather tall drink of water at 154 pounds. Last year spent a little time with the big club. He went 4-5 with the Yankees. This year 3-2, and you see his numbers. He has given up a few hits, but he's also got a 3-to-1 ratio of strikeouts to walks. He's got a very good sinker ball. I was talking to Mel Stottlemyre, his pitching coach, before the ball game. An excellent sinker, hard sinker, and a changeup. And I was told earlier, and I asked Mel about this, about him, he throws a 3-finger changeup. And I said, is it like a little leaguer would just kind of grab the ball with all fingers and kind of choke the ball back in his hand? And he said, not exactly. He says it's more like a circle change. You just don't put the thumb and forefinger together. You just use the 3 fingers on the baseball to try to slow it down a little bit. And he says it's very effective. For him to be effective and to win a ball game, as he has done 3 times, he's got to keep the ball down. When he gets upstairs, like a lot of sinker ballers, he gets hurt. He's allowed 6 home runs in his first 9 starts. He was added to the rotation when Kenny Rogers was sent to the bullpen. He is expected to remain in the rotation until Arabu arrives from his minor league assignments, the Japanese pitcher that was signed recently. So Mendoza expected to get this start, maybe one more before the All-Star break if he's fortunate, and then back to the bullpen. But a pretty good arm, and should be a good test. As we know from the past, the Braves always have trouble with guys they've never faced before. The umpires tonight: Ed Hickok's behind the plate, John Hirschbeck is at first, Ted Henry at second base, Jim Joyce moves down to third. Jeff Blauser set to lead things off, and maybe tonight, Pete, maybe the bats will come to life.
Well, that's what Bobby Cox is hoping for. Jeff Blauser, 347. He was 1 for 4 in the opening game of the series last night. The announcement on the reserves for the All-Star team will come tomorrow, and Jeff, in all likelihood, will be named to the All-Star squad. And because the winner in the balloting, Barry Larkin, will probably be unable to play, in all likelihood, Jeff Blauser will be your starting shortstop in the National League All-Star game. Here's the 1-0 pitch outside, and the count 2-0.
And deserving.
Yes, he's had a great all-around year. 347, 11 homers, 40 RBIs. 2-0 pitch inside corner for a called strike. Blauser, that little move that he has gotten on base being hit by pitch. And he sort of turns in toward home plate, but that one caught the corner. Here's the 2-1 on the way now. It's fouled off of the plate. 2-2. But people still talking about last night's game tonight when they got to the ballpark. That was such a classic battle between two outstanding teams. Tom Glavine going 9 scoreless innings, but being matched 0 for 0 by Andy Pettitte, and then Kenny Rogers, and then Mike Stanton. There's a base hit to left field to start the ball game off the bat of Jeff Blauser. So a good start tonight for Atlanta as Blauser leads off with a single. That'll bring out Michael Tucker, who had his 16-game hitting streak snapped last night.
Let's check the location. A sinker that flattened out about belt high, and that's something to watch all night with Mendoza as long as he's out there, is to check the location of the pitches. If it starts about knee high and then sinks, he's in good shape.
Tucker 0 for 4 in last night's game. And he grounds one right side. That too will get through into right field for a base hit. Blauser will stop at second. And the Braves have gotten their first 2 men aboard on back-to-back singles by Blauser and Tucker. And that'll bring up Chipper Jones. Chipper 2 for 5 last night, now batting .303 on the year. Chipper came in number 2 in the balloting at third behind Ken Caminiti. We'll show you all the National League starters a little bit later. But the Braves did very, very well in the balloting. In the top 3 or 4 in just about every spot. Here's the stretch pitch out of the way to Chipper. Taking low, ball 1.
Very high average against Mendoza. .311. Right-handers actually hitting him better. They're hitting at a .336 clip.
Here's the 1-0. There's the off-speed pitch. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Interesting in his grip of the baseball on that changeup. That may start a whole new trend.
Almost like a palm ball.
But he doesn't hold it that far back in his hand, according to Mel Stottlemyre.
Here's the 1-1 on the way. 2-1 the count. Well, there always seems to be a trendy pitch.
Yeah.
Whether it's a split finger pitch or a circle change has been the latest one.
Screwballs were the fad there for a while.
Yep.
When Fernando was having so much success.
Here's the 2-1. In the air along the line and left, fairly deep. Whitten circling it out there. He's got it for the out. And the runners have to stay put, 1 down. 1 man gone. Runners remain at first and second. The batter will be Fred McGriff. McGriff comes in at .280 for the year. He has 10 homers and 48 RBIs. He was 0 for 3 last night.
Some history made at Tiger Stadium tonight for Tide. Tell you about it after this pitch.
Outside corner on 1.
First at bat, Bob Higginson hit a home run off Bobby Jones. He's hit 4 home runs in 4 straight at bats to join a list of only, I think it's 25, 26 major leaguers in baseball history that have hit home runs in 4 consecutive at bats.
Here's the 0-1 delivery to McGriff, taken low, 1 ball, 1 strike. The Tigers handed the Mets their most lopsided shutout loss ever last night, 14-0. And they're up 3-0 in the game tonight over the Mets. Here's the 1-1. Little bouncing ball to the right side. Soho has it. He tags the runner going by on to first, double play. So a pair of base hits to open the inning, but Mendoza gets out of it as McGriff hits into a 4-3 inning ender.
The New York Yankees starting lineup very similar to last night in game 1, where they had Jeter, Soho, and O'Neill at the top of the order. Cecil Fielder, the cleanup hitter. Bottom part of the order remains the same, with the exception of Jorge Posada, who will catch and bat ninth. The Braves defensively have Brian Klesko in the lineup tonight and Mark Lemke at second base. Everything else remains the same, with the exception of the pitcher. Denny Nagel's on the mound to make his 18th start. He's 11-1. All 3 months have been outstanding. He is a candidate for pitcher of the month for the month of June. With that 4-0 record, that came in 5 starts, and in those victories, 2 complete games and 2 shutouts. So he's been pitching great of late, as he has all season.
And leading it off for the Yankees, Derek Jeter, who had 2 hits and 5 trips last night, hitting .286 now on the year. Nagel's first pitch is on the outside corner for a called strike. 0-1. Jeter, then Soho, and then O'Neill.
Jeff Porter and Tom Glavine having a little chat in the dugout.
Low and away, 1 ball, 1 strike.
Well, the Braves players and pitchers especially really rely on Jeff Porter and Dave Pursley a lot. Keep them going, and it's a tribute to them that the Braves pitchers miss so few starts.
Oh, absolutely. And add Frank Fultz to that mix,
Absolutely,
too.
yep.
Braves strength and conditioning coach.
I saw Frank and Tom coming back to the Braves clubhouse from a workout in the Yankee weight room while the Yankees were taking batting practice. I said, boy, Frank, you're afraid to give him a day off after nine shutout innings, and he just smiled.
Here's the 2-1 now to Derek Jeter. High fastball. He swung right through it. 2-2.
I got a quiz for you real quick, Pete. Fred McGriff bounced into that double play. He's now tied for the National League lead for the most double plays hit into. He's in a 3-way tie. Mike Piazza's one of them. Who's the other one? Any guesses?
Well, you would think it would be somebody a little slow of foot.
That you would. And that's why I don't think you would ever pick this guy.
Okay, here's the 2-2 pitch. Jeter lines it back up the middle. Base hit center field. And the Yankees get their leadoff man on.
The other person, the Braves' third baseman, Chipper Jones.
Really?
Uh-huh. Oh, boy, Jeter hit a good pitch. Breaking ball. It might have even been outside, but he went out and got it. Didn't try to pull it. Smacked it right back through the middle.
Jeter now in the 5-game hitting streak. He's aboard. Nobody out. Luis Soho will step in. Soho had a game-winning hit in the 10th inning last night. He is now batting .312 on the year. And here it is off Mike Bilecki. It was actually the 4th hit of the inning by the Yankees. Andrew Jones had already thrown out 1 runner at third, but could not fire a strike on that one. And the Yankees finally broke the scoreless deadlock in the bottom of the 10th. Outside corner for a called strike to Soho.
Andrew does such a great job of throwing. We were talking last night about his 7 assists already this year after he threw out Chad Curtis at third base. But on that one, he knew he had to hurry, knew he had to make a great throw, and rushed himself just a little bit.
Down the left field line, foul. 0-2, the count on Soho. Soho, one of 4 hitters in this Yankee batting order that have faced Denny Nagel in regular season action before. Soho 1 for 2 lifetime against him. Here's the 0-2 on the way, and it's outside. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Soho plays for a little more offense. Pat Kelly plays second base for a little better defense. And rumors are that the Yankees might be one of the teams. If the Red Sox are willing to shop Will Cordero around, they might be interested in getting him.
In the air to right, Michael Tucker on the run, makes the catch, firing back to first, and Jeter dives back in there safely. Good play by Tucker. And he almost wound up getting a double play out of it.
It's exactly the way the game started last night. Jeter singled, wandered a little bit too far off first base. Soho flied out to right, and Michael Tucker tried to pick him off and threw it over Fred's head.
Now Paul O'Neill, he had 2 hits last night, has a 5-game hitting streak. Hitting .326 overall for the year, and one noticeable difference in Paul O'Neill last night from his National League days, his willingness to go the other way against left-handed pitching. Both of his hits last night, line drive singles to left. At the knees for a called strike. 0-1. No score, bottom half of inning 1. We play here again tomorrow. It'll be Greg Maddux against Dwight Gooden. Then the Braves head up to Montreal. 4-game series with the Expos prior to the All-Star break. Yankees also heading up to Canada. They'll be in Toronto for the 4 before the break.
Hard to believe this is already O'Neill's 5th year as a Yankee, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Here's the 0-1. Outside, 1 ball, 1 strike. He was involved in that play against the Braves that has been replayed over and over and over and over again when he actually kicked a ball that he was having trouble coming up with in right field. Kicked it right back to the infield.
Yeah. He had booted it.
Yeah?
Yeah. I remember that on the carpet in Cincinnati.
1 ball, 1 strike. That misses outside. 2-1. First came up to the Reds, did O'Neill in '85, played with them through '92, and then was traded to the Yankees for Roberto Kelly in November of '92.
Always been a good fastball hitter, good low ball hitter.
Here's the 2-1 from Nagel at the knees for a called strike. 2-2. Cecil Fielder on deck. Yankees are 4-3 against National League teams thus far in interleague play. Team that's really doing a job against the other league is the Montreal Expos. They won again today in the Canada Day contest with Toronto. Montreal is now 7-1 against American League teams.
Yeah, didn't Jeff Juden have a no-hitter through 8 in that game, or into the 8th?
Into the 8th, I think.
Gave up a home run to spoil it.
Now the 2-2 pitch. In the dirt, good block by Javi Lopez. 3-2.
There were a lot of guys having good years in '94 when the strike came along, but Paul O'Neill was one of those. You heard a lot about home runs with the Matt Williams and the Ken Griffey Jr.'s. Paul O'Neill was leading the league in hitting in the American League. He was hitting .359, had 21 homers and 83 RBIs, having his best season ever at the plate in average when the season came to a grinding halt.
We'll see if Jeter's on the move on this 3-2 pitch with 1 out. He is going. The 3-2 ground ball second. Lemke looks towards second. No play there. On to first to get O'Neill. So there are 2 down now with Jeter down at second for Cecil Fielder, who comes in at .263, 9 homers and 49 runs driven in. He was 1 for 3 last night. Two men out, runner second. Caught the outside corner, 0-1.
His teammates call him Big Daddy. I'm not sure why.
Oh, come on. 0-1 to count. Could not stop his swing. Foul tipped at 0-2. What else could you call him?
Right. When he hit the 50 homers, 51 I guess it was, didn't he hit number 50 here at Yankee Stadium?
That I don't know.
Upper deck, I'm told. Yes.
Here's the 0-2 on the way, and it's high and outside. 1 ball, 2 strikes. 298 career homers now for Fielder, including 39 last year. 13 of them in a Yankee uniform. Here's the 1-2. 2-2. Fielder will be 34 in September. Jeter down at second, 2 outs. Here's the 2-2 pitch. Gets away from Lopez, not far enough for the runner to advance. Full count now, 3-2. Tino Martinez in the on-deck circle. Here comes the 3-2 on the way. Grounded toward short, right at Jeff Blauser. On the first in time. So both pitchers give up a hit or two in the first inning, but both pitchers get out of it. No score after one. No score as we go to the top half of inning two. Ryan Klesko will lead things off. And here's your National League All-Star team starters. Bagwell, Biggio, Caminetti, and Larkin around the infield. Piazza the catcher. Gwynn, Lofton, and Walker in the outfield. Now injuries may knock a couple of those guys out of there. Larkin probably won't be able to play. Kenny Lofton might not be able to play. So Jeff Blauser will probably move into the shortstop spot. And we'll have to wait and see who Bobby would pick if Lofton's unable to play. Lofton eligible to come off the disabled list in a couple of days, but he's still having some problems, Joe, with that groin.
Yeah, I talked to him a little bit last night, and it didn't sound like he was that close to being ready. And I think it might be after the All-Star break.
Klesko rolls one right at the second baseman Soho. One away in the second.
If you look at just the votes in the National League outfield, if you went down and Kenny couldn't play, the number 4 vote getter was Barry Bonds, and he had a great month of June.
Yes, he did. He could very well be the nominee to replace Lofton if Kenny can't go next Tuesday in Cleveland, and you know he'd love to in Cleveland. Now Andrew Jones hitting .272 with 6 homers. He was 1 for 3 here last night. Fouls off the first pitch, 0-1.
The one thing the Braves did not do a very good job of last night, Pete, obviously they got shut out and they had trouble getting anything going against some good pitching, but they didn't make any adjustments. I didn't think the right-handers especially made very many adjustments against all those left-handers. They saw a lot of curveballs. A
lot of breaking balls, yeah. The 0-1 pitch is a breaking ball, stayed high. 1 ball, 1 strike. Well, we always hear about all the breaking balls that are thrown in the American League, and last night was a great example of the difference in the two leagues as far as pitching philosophies. Here's the 1-1 now. Grounded foul down the left side. 1-2.
But when you don't see a pitcher very often, as the case of course in interleague play, you've got to make some quick adjustments from at bat to at bat. If a guy's doing something to you, you've got to try and take that away from him and make him try something different.
Here's the 1-2 now to Andrew, and it's outside. Ball 2. 2-2.
If you're going to see him over the course, maybe 2 starts over the course of 2 weeks, you've got an opportunity maybe to sit back and take your time a little bit with a guy, but not in these interleague games.
Now the 2-2 pitch on the way off the end of the bat. Still 2 balls, 2 strikes. After this series, no more interleague ball till the last 3 days of August and the first 3 days of September. Braves still have a series left with the Detroit Tigers in Atlanta and with the Boston Red Sox at Fenway Park. Here's the 2-2, strike 3 call. Andrew caught looking. First strikeout for Mendoza. 2 men gone.
Looked like a pretty good breaking ball. Threw it at Andrew, and maybe Andrew thought it was high. But a pretty good pitch.
2 gone. That'll bring up the catcher Javi Lopez. 1 for 4 last night. Now batting .302 on the year. Javi finished second to Mike Piazza in the voting among catchers. And he could be taking a trip to Cleveland.
Yeah, I was looking at the list of catchers. I think Todd Hundley certainly is, after Piazza, the next guy to get picked. But Javi, since you need more than 2 catchers for the All-Star game, I think he's definitely one of the 3.
Here's the 0-1 on the way. That's foul away, and the count goes to 0-2 on Lopez. Yeah, Bobby's not looking forward to tomorrow. The team will come out tomorrow. Same thing with Joe Torre in the American League team. It doesn't matter. You can spend 3 straight days mulling over the possibilities and come out with your list, and you're going to be upsetting fans and players on several teams who feel worthy of selection, who aren't, there's just not enough room for everybody. And you have to cover every team. That's another thing. Every team has to have at least one player. Here's the 0-2. Just off the outside corner, 1-2.
That's another reason why my plan, as you look at this last pitch, it just missed outside. If you let the players pick the starters and then the fans pick their favorites, and there can be no complaining. The players would then have to complain to the fans about it.
Here's the 1-2. Outside again, 2-2.
Let the players and managers vote on the starters, and then round out your team with the fan vote, and then nobody can blame anybody for who rounds out the roster.
2-2 pitch on the way. Upstairs, full count now, 3-2 on Lopez. Keith Lockhart, the Braves DH tonight, waits on deck. Mendoza delivers the 3-2, and Lopez fouls it back. Still 3-2.
Mendoza's been getting a lot of run support. That's helped his cause. His ERA is high, but a winning record of 3.12. But he's been given 6 runs, close to 6.5 runs per start.
Now another 3-2 pitch on the way to Lopez. Breaking ball has popped up into shallow left field. Mark Whitten out there under it, and he's got it. A 1-2-3 inning for Mendoza. Nothing doing in the second. Still no score.
Before we go to the bottom half of the second inning, let's take a look at the Hardee's leaderboard tonight. The best records in the major leagues. In Baltimore, with their win last night, climbed just ahead of the Atlanta Braves. The Yankees are 4th on the list, followed by the Giants in Seattle, who are playing each other out in Seattle. Giants won last night 8-6, but Mariners are handling the Giants tonight. They've got a big lead early.
And we'll be updating all the scores for you a little bit later on. Right now, Tino Martinez will be the first baseman in the All-Star game for the American League in the starting lineup, hitting .307, 28 home runs, and 76 RBIs. Outside corner, 0-1.
Did a pregame radio interview with Tino and was talking to him about the difficulty most players have in playing in New York. You know, the big microscope, the big spotlight. He said, but they're great fans. They're knowledgeable fans. And if you work hard, play hard, he said, not that they don't let you know about it if you take an 0 for 4, but by and large, they are really good.
Upstairs, 2-1. Well, he's on a pretty short list right now with those 28 home runs. He'll be just the 3rd Yankee to reach the All-Star break with 25 or more homers. Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris, the other 2. That'll get the fans on your side.
Yes, it will.
Here's the 2-1 pitch. Breaking ball, 2-2.
Well, you and I were talking about this last night, I think in the second half of the game when Kenny Rogers was pitching, Pete, about how, yeah, you can get in their doghouse and they can be on you if you're not producing, but if you're playing well and doing the job, man, the rewards are unbelievable here.
Now the 2-2 pitch on the way to Martinez from Nagel, right back up the middle. Nice play on the backhand by Denny Nagel, and that's out number 1 here in the bottom of the second. And that'll bring up Charlie Hayes.
They play a little purple haze for Charlie when he goes to the plate.
Charlie having another good year, 292. He has 6 homers and 21 RBIs. He is kind of an unheralded player, but he's had a fine career. Had a .305-25 home run year with Colorado back in '93. 284 for the Yankees last year, 276 for the Phillies with 11 homers the year before that. Takes ball 1.
He is a tough out. You know that he's going to battle you tooth and nail every time he goes to the plate. He's not afraid to hit the ball to right center.
Here's the 1-0 pitch. Ground ball toward short. Jeff Blauser on to McGriff for out number 2. Well, remember in the last 2 games Denny Nagel has pitched. Pop-ups and fly balls have been the order of the day, but right now he's got the ground ball pitch working. He's got 4 consecutive outs on grounders, and the batter will be Mark Whitten. Mark hitting .261, 5 home runs. Ball 1. In the air, right center field. Andrew Jones, diving catch out there for out number 3. Another outstanding defensive play by the 20-year-old center fielder. 1, 2, 3 go the Yankees. In the second, still no score.
On the Office Depot scoreboard, these finals, Montreal beat Toronto. Sean Green broke up the no-hitter in the 8th inning of Jeff Juden. 6-1 the Cubbies over Kansas City. Anaheim gave up only 1 run on 6 hits. Finley and Percival combined there. Oakland over San Diego. Seattle got 6 in the 3rd inning. Jose Cruz Jr. has hit 2 homers. Keith Lockhart stands in for the Braves. The rest of the scores: Boston 3 in the 1st off of Pat Rapp. Detroit 3 in the 1st, 3 in the 3rd. They've hit 4 home runs. I'll tell you who they are just a bit.
Count goes to 1 ball, 1 strike on Keith Lockhart, who comes in at .239, 3 homers, including that huge grand slam against the Phillies on Sunday.
A couple of other scores to pass your way.
Now the 1-1 hit high in the air, deep right field. Back for this one goes O'Neill to the track to the wall. It's off the wall. Lockhart on his way to second. Leadoff double for Keith Lockhart. I think Paul O'Neill thought that ball was gone.
I know I did. It got out there, though, in an area where normally the ball jumps at Yankee Stadium and just missed getting out of here. There's another case of a pitch that was up from Mendoza and it missed getting out by maybe 4 or 5 inches.
3rd double of the year for Lockhart. Hit number 3 off of Mendoza. Now Mark Lemke hitting .230 with a couple of homers. He takes ball 1.
That game at Detroit. Remember last night Detroit hit 6 home runs against the Mets. Tonight
right.
They've already hit 4 in 3 innings. We told you about Higginson. Fryman's hit 1, Hamlin's hit 1, and Damian Easley has hit 1. Amazing.
Here's the 1-0 pitch now to Lemke up the middle. That's right where Jeter had him play, and they've got Lockhart hung up. Jeter's going to run right at him and apply the tag. Heads up play by Derek Jeter.
You know, I think if Keith had continued on to 3rd base, I don't know that he would even thrown to 3rd. But when Keith stopped, naturally they get him in trouble. And Jeter did such a good job of running him down in a hurry that it didn't allow Lemke time to get to 1st and even think about getting into 2nd.
So 1 out runner at 1st. Back down to the top of the order, and Jeff Blauser. Jeff had a base hit his 1st time up. So the situation eases now for Mendoza. Runner at 1st with 1 out. Outside corner for a called strike, 0-1.
In Lockhart's defense, generally speaking, when you're the runner at 2nd, the ball's hit that hard to your left, you pretty much assume the ball's into center field, or at least enough to get you over to 3rd. But unfortunately for him, Jeter had Lemke played up the middle.
Here's the 0-1, and it's a strike in the outside corner. 0-2. Blauser played straight away by the Yankee outfield. You see the lead Lemke has. Not a real big one over at 1st. Pitch on the way is high and outside. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Now the 1-2 pitch. Missed outside, 2-2. Mendoza made a very rapid rise to the Yankee minor league system. He was 38-22 over about a 4.5-year minor league career before arriving with New York last year.
And showed pretty good control, I think, up and down the list there, because anytime you find somebody like this kid who's got good movement on his fastball and does not walk many hitters, you like to have them at the top level.
Just turned 25. That's all for Blauser. Second strikeout for Ramiro Mendoza. 2 gone. That'll bring up Michael Tucker.
That looked like the changeup. Boy, that was a beauty.
And terrific motion on that changeup too.
Yeah, just
did not tip it off at all.
Dipped right at the plate.
Tucker a base hit in the first inning after having his 16-game hitting streak snapped here last night. Now 304 for the year. That one got a piece of Posada. 0-1. Joe Torre kind of hoping he'd get Bernie Williams back today. Williams did take batting practice and told Joe he felt good swinging the bat, but still a little bit afraid to do any quick movements, which you'd have to do defensively more than anything else, going after a ball. So he's still on the DL. They'll check them again tomorrow. Just day to day now with him. 0-2 the count. Here's the 0-2. Upstairs with a breaking ball. 1 ball, 2 strikes. No score again.
One of the things that athletes have trouble doing when they come off an injury, Pete, is a guy like Williams who runs so well. Your instincts take over. A ball in the gap, he's going to let it all out and run as fast as he can, and that's what he's talking about. A quick burst of speed might pull it again.
1-2 is low and inside. Posada keeps it in front of him. The runner has to stay put. Count goes to 2-2 on Michael Tucker. 2 men out here in the top of the 3rd.
How about Bobby Witt of the Rangers last night hitting a home run?
Home run, yeah. Who says American League pitchers can't hit? Throw goes to first.
I read somewhere today he was the first American League pitcher to hit a homer since Rorick Harrison of the Orioles in, I think, '72, the year before the DH.
2 balls, 2 strikes.
It's like the changeup.
And Tucker ropes it toward right field. Trickles off the glove of Soho. Around to third goes Mark Lemke. And Michael Tucker 2 for 2. The Braves have runners first and third with 2 outs.
The Yankee infielders are doing a lot of adjusting as the pitch is being delivered. I noticed earlier tonight on a curveball to Andrew Jones that Derek Jeter moved quickly over the hole in case the pitch was pulled. And on this changeup, Luis Soho, look how far over in the hole he is on this ground ball. He moved to his left quite a bit as the pitch was being delivered and almost got to the ball that was practically behind first base.
So the Braves now with 4 hits off of Ramiro Mendoza, but he has a chance to get out of it here first and third if he can get Chipper Jones. Chipper flying to left his first time up. Boy, this was the situation in last night's game that the Braves just could not capitalize on late. In the 7th inning, they left runners at first and second. In the 8th, they left runners at first and second. In the 9th, they left runners at second and third. In the 10th, they left runners at first and second.
Yeah, 2 out hits. Couldn't come up with one.
Here's the pitch now to Chipper, high and away, ball 1.
By that graphic, you see that Chipper's getting his share of RBI hits with 2 outs, but none last night.
Inside corner, says Ed Hickox. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Chipper had a great month of June. He hit .345, 8 homers, and 29 RBIs to give him a total of 62 this year. Exact same number through June of a year ago. Fred McGriff's RBI numbers are down. Klesko's are up. Everyone actually has improved.
Outside corner, 1-2. And these Yankee fans, this is all it takes to get them going. 2 outs and 2 strikes on an opposing hitter. Here's the 1-2. Struck him out with a high fastball. Third strikeout for Mendoza. Braves strand 2 more. Still no score after 2.5.
Bottom half of the 3rd inning, still no score again here at New York. This telecast is authorized under broadcasting rights granted by the Atlanta National League Baseball Club and is intended solely for the entertainment of our audience. Any publication, rebroadcast, retransmission of the pictures or descriptions of this game without the express written consent of the Atlanta National League Baseball Club is prohibited.
And here's Chad Curtis to lead off the bottom of the 3rd for the Yankees, hitting .244 on the year. 5 homers, 13 RBIs, takes ball 1. Started the year with Cleveland. Came over in the David Weathers trade. The 1-0. High and outside, 2-0.
Pete, do you have any idea what's going to happen with that Will Cordero situation in Boston? I mean, they're playing shorthanded. They haven't disabled him. They haven't restricted him. They're playing a man short.
That's a real mess out there. Here's the 2-0 pitch. It's high and away, 3-0. It sounds like that they're going to try to get him traded before the All-Star break, but that still doesn't really resolve the whole situation. It just moves it, makes it someone else's problem, perhaps.
Yeah.
Here's the 3-0 pitch. At the knees for a call, strike 3-1.
Whatever the secondary discoveries were about Will Cordero, they haven't been revealed, at least to my knowledge, unless there's something that's coming on the heels of his incident with his wife a couple of weeks ago.
Here's the 3-1. Outside corner, 3-2 now on Chad Curtis. Jorge Posada, the catcher, waiting on deck. And Nagel's 3-2. Grounded sharply 3rd. Nice backhanded knockdown by Chipper Jones. Can he throw him out? No, he throws it away into the seats. And that'll get Curtis down to 2nd. It'll be a base hit for Chad Curtis. An error on the throw by Chipper Jones, enabling Curtis to move down to 2nd.
Chipper picked this ball up with his glove, and he might have had a better grip on it if he had picked it up barehanded. But this ball skipped off the railing. And even on overthrows here at Yankee Stadium, usually it's tough to go to 2nd unless you airmail one into the stands, because the stands are so close to the field. If it's on the ground, first baseman usually doesn't have far to go get the ball, but that one bounced about 25 rows up into the seats.
So Curtis winds up at 2nd, nobody out. Here's Posada batting .256, 1 homer. Upstairs, breaking ball, ball 1. Chased a high outside fastball. 1 ball, 1 strike. Posada has spent almost all of the last 3 years in AAA. A little bit of playing time with the Yankees last year and 1 game the year before. Out of play right side, 1-2.
Last night was a brilliantly played ball game. Only 1 error in the game, and that was by Chipper on that missed pop-up, but that didn't factor into anything in the 10th inning as Mark Quinton later struck out.
A ball and 2 strikes on Posada. Two and 2.
And Denny Nagel fortunate there that nothing happened where the ball was hit to the left side, because he delivered to the plate with Jeff Blauser standing practically on the bag waiting for a pickoff throw.
Yeah, usually you'll see a pitcher, if he doesn't make the throw, at least step off in that situation. Two and two. Off his hands towards second, charging at Lemke. On to first in time. It does get the runner over to third, though.
When you're not an everyday player and hitting around 250 or less, and you do something to help your team like that, that earns a lot of points of respect from your teammates and your manager.
A runner at third, one out, back down to the top of the order, and Derek Jeter has been a tough out in this series. 3 for 6 after his first inning single tonight. Now has a 5-game hitting streak.
One run scored in 10 innings last night. Obviously, Bobby Cox realizes they're at a premium and has the infield in.
Foul back by Jeter, the count 0-1. Maybe the ultimate compliment paid to Derek Jeter when he first came up to the Yankees. They issued him uniform number 2. And there are not many single-digit numbers left to be issued here in New York. Number 1, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 7, number 8, number 9 have all been retired. So they've got to think a little bit of you to give you that uniform number.
The only other one left is being worn by the manager presently, Joe Torre, number 6.
Here's the 0-1. In the air to left. It's going to drop in for a base hit. In to score, Chad Curtis. Yankees lead 1-0. Derek Jeter drives in his 37th run of the year.
Watch the location of this pitch. It's upstairs. Change up that didn't move enough. It started high, stayed high, and Jeter knew what to do with it. Denny's pitching very well here, and the error certainly hurt, and that mistake bothered him, cost him a run.
Now Luis Sojo, he flying to right his first time up. 1 run, 3 hits for the Yankees. No runs, 4 hits, and 1 error for Atlanta. They've got him picked off as Jeter broke too soon. Second night in a row that's happened.
Last night he was already running. He was going on a hit and run play and then just stopped halfway. Tonight it's Denny Nagel who picks him off. Fred tagged him twice. He made a pretty good move on Fred too, to try to dodge the first tag. Fred had to go get back and get him with the baseball.
Base is empty, 2 outs now, and the pitch on the way to Sojo, taken low. Down the left field line. Plesko giving chase down in that left field corner, but it's in the seats out of play. Not a lot of room once you get down in that corner in foul territory.
No, you cross that foul line, you're in big trouble if you're still going full steam.
Yes. There's hardly enough room to extend your arms to break the collision. 1 ball, 1 strike.
It's well padded, but out of the corner of your eye, you see it looming before you, and you suddenly start slowing down as you get closer to it.
2 men out, 1 run in, and a count of 1 ball, 1 strike on Sojo. Popped him up. Chipper Jones crossing into foul territory. And that'll do it for the Yankees in the 3rd, but New York on the board on the RBI single by Derek Jeter. 1-0 Yankees after 3. give you tonight's Aflac trivia question. Who is the only player since 1900 to reach 200 hits in 7 straight seasons? We'll have the answer for you in the bottom half of the inning. As the Braves try to get something going, they've been shut out now for 13 straight innings by Yankees pitching, Joe.
13. I was just going to look back. They did not score in the 8th inning at home against the Phillies in the last game of that contest, so 14 straight overall. Fred McGriff hit into a double play in the first inning. He bounced out to Soho, who tagged Tucker and then threw to first for the double play. Good sinker. Mel Stottlemyre said when this guy figures out how good his sinker really is, he is going to be mighty tough. That's foul. They count 1-2. Fred McGriff and Cecil Fielder were teammates at one time in Toronto. They both have something in common. They both start their swing about the same way. Watch how Cecil rocks back on his back foot as he goes into his swing. Fred McGriff does the same thing. To the right side. Nice play by Martinez. In time. 1 out. Tino Martinez with a good play.
He's made a couple of nice defensive plays in this series. This one headed toward the hole. Martinez over to cut it off. Then had to wait just a moment for Mendoza to get to the bag. Got it to him easily for the out.
McGriff and Cecil Fielder both say they learned that reverse press to get their swing started from Cito Gaston, who was their hitting coach while they were in Toronto. Ryan Klesko grounded out his first time. He hit a ball in batting practice, Pete. Something to see. Hit it into the upper deck, up on the aisleway where the exits come out. That's about 10, 12 rows or so above the railing of the upper deck. 2-1.
He seems to do something like that at least once a night during batting practice, whatever ballpark we're playing in. Right up there is where the one tonight went.
Right there where that walkway is. Two-one delivery inside. 3-1. Three strikeouts for Mendoza. That's rifled into right field. No chance for Tino Martinez to get to that one. Klesko's got a base hit. The Braves have 5 hits, but they trail 1-0. The Yankees have 3 hits. Ryan hit .227 for the month of June, 3 homers and 16 RBIs. .57 pitches so far for 25-year-old Ramiro Mendoza. Andrew took a call third his first time on a pitch just like that. Andrew had a good month of June. He had .282. Got a lot more playing time, of course, with Lofton on the DL. He had 4 homers, 15 RBIs. Might be 2, but he throws wide of the bag, and Ted Henry called him out anyway at second base. Mercy. Andrew beat the relay, but Pat Corrales at first base can't believe it. Pat was saying he was off the bag, and we'll take another look.
Comebacker, he had plenty of time here. He kind of hurries this throw. And so it looked like he was on the bag when he took the throw. It took about 2 running steps over to the third base side of second.
When he was moving in real speed, it certainly didn't. But on that slow motion, you're right. Looked like Ted Henry got it right. 2 out. Andrew at first with a big lead.
Here's another look. You'll see him plant the foot. It's still on the bag when he makes the catch from the throw from Mendoza.
Sure was. Good call by Ted Henry. Another homer in Detroit, Pete.
Tigers?
Yeah.
Who else?
Yeah. This is amazing.
They give them 12 now in 2 nights.
Let's see, they had 4 earlier. That gives them 11. Curtis Pride hit one off of Corey Lytle. It's 8-0 Detroit now.
Wow, they've outscored them 22-0.
And they're only in the 6th. Slow roller to short. Jeter took his time to get his feet right. Can you believe that? He was going to make sure he threw off the right foot. Had time with Hobby running and got him. No runs, a hit, 1 left. We go to the bottom of the 4th. 1-0 Yanks.
How well did you do with tonight's half-night trivia question? Who was the only player since 1900 to reach 200 hits in 7 straight seasons? He is seated in the Yankee dugout tonight. Wade Boggs. 240 was his high. He did it from 83 through 89. 240 hits in 85. And 200 on the nose to keep the string going in 87. And he'll probably be in the lineup tomorrow with Greg Maddux on the mound for Atlanta.
For the Yankees in the bottom of the 4th, heart of their order, O'Neill, Fielder, and Tino Martinez. O'Neill grounded to second his first time. And takes a strike. O'Neill hitting .400 over his last 75 at bats and has raised his average up to .325. One hopper to McGriff. Fred will take it to the bag himself. 1 down. How about the Blue Jays? How are they looking there for a while when they had Willie Upshaw, Fred McGriff, and Cecil Fielder all as their first baseman? They had a choice to make. Who do they keep?
They kept Upshaw.
They kept Willie Upshaw.
Yep.
Willie's now their hitting coach for the big league club. They sent Cecil Fielder to Japan and traded Fred McGriff to the Padres. 0-1 to Fielder, who grounded to short his first time. Oh, 2. They charged Denny Nagel with an earned run on that run in the 3rd inning, despite Chad Curtis going to second on that error. They couldn't assume a double play on the ground ball hit by Posada. So that's why the official score here, Fred Foley, credited an earned run. Down on strikes is Fielder, and that's strikeout number 1 for Denny Nagel.
You hear a few boos in the crowd. And that's what Tino Martinez was talking about, Joe. And he said these fans are very knowledgeable and they really will support you when you're doing good things, but you just have a bad at bat. And you'll hear a little bit of the negative side of the crowd here in New York.
And here is Tino. And he takes a strike. He hit a comebacker, hit the ball hard, and Nagel made a good play on him to throw him out. Tino was 1 for 4 last night, hit into 2 double plays. Good pitch. 0-2.
Well, I will say this for the New York Yankee fans. I have never felt a ballpark like Game 6 of that World Series last year. It was literally vibrating.
Only 53 pitches for Nagel to this point. Don Zimmer said before the game tonight, Pete, he was talking to us a little bit, bench coach for the Yankees, that there was that same atmosphere when the Mets were in here.
Oh, I'll bet.
A week or so ago. Got him looking. Great inning for Denny Nagel. Back-to-back strikeouts of Fielder and Martinez. The Yankees are gone in order. Braves need to get the bats going. Being shut out again, 1-0. To the top of the 5th inning, Yankees leading by a run. Keith Lockhart will lead off for the Braves. He just missed hitting a home run his first time up, doubled off the right field wall, but then was thrown out trying to go to third on a ground ball hit by Mark Lemke. Lockhart, Lemke, and then Blauser for Atlanta. Soho with a tough play and a tough hop, bobbles, tosses, and not in time. He couldn't get it out of his glove, and the good hustle by Keith Lockhart on what looked like was going to be a routine ground ball. His hustle earned him a spot at first base. We'll wait to see how they score it.
Probably will be an error. He was going to make a routine throw, then it was going to be an underhand throw, and it wound up being a shove to first base when he couldn't get it out of his glove. Just pushed it.
He was just trying to figure out some way to get rid of it.
Give him a base hit on that.
Wow. Mr. Foley, thank you. Another gift there, but that doesn't even up on the earned run charged to Denny Nagel. A strike to Lemke, who hit into the force play his first time up. Mark had a tough month of June. He hit .214, no homers, only 5 RBIs, and of course was battling and still is battling that problem with his vision. Gets away from Posada, and Lockhart's going to wind up at second. And that's a pass ball charge to Jorge Posada.
He was looking for the pitch on the outside portion of the plate. It came inside, so Mendoza missed his target by a good 1.5 feet. And Posada unable to get all the way over to the other side of the plate and come up with it.
Same situation the Braves had in the third inning. Let's see if Lemke can get Lockhart to third. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Mark got off to such a good start. It's a shame that his average is now down around 230. Struck him out. Chased a big breaking ball, 1 down.
Want to remind you, coming up on Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern, TNT will present first round coverage of the Isuzu Celebrity Golf Championship. It'll be from Lake Tahoe, Nevada. Celebrities scheduled to appear include John Elway, Charles Barkley, and Mike Schmidt, all coming up Friday on TNT, 3 Eastern time.
Our old buddy Killer Nolan. Ken Nolan will be producing that event. Jeff Blauser's 1 for 2, singled in the first, struck out in the third.
For the safety of the gallery, better that he be producing than playing in the event.
Here, here. A bluff to second, but no one covering. Soho, the guy trying to hold Lockhart close. And some room for Blauser on the right side. Fastball, good sinker, just missed. 1-1. The thing about Mendoza's fastball, Pete, and it's like Mel Stottlemyre said, he's not overpowering, but his changeup kind of lures you to sleep a little bit, and then he can bust you with it a little bit and surprise you. He's sneaky quick with that sinking fastball. Foul ball off of Posada, 1-2 the count.
And he does get some movement on it.
Oh, you bet. That's not a good sign. It's okay if you're scoring some runs, but not when you're being shut out. Again, with 2 strikes, these Yankee fans come to life, hoping for the strikeout. Breaking ball misses, 2-2. That's one pitch that surprised me tonight, that everyone I talked to, nobody mentioned the breaking ball, and that's a good one. He's out of Panama. 2-2 pitch. Blauser laid off a tough pitch. Full count. Jeff's average not what it was the first month or so, but he still hit .309 for June and had 5 homers, 13 RBIs. Payoff pitch. Yes, he did. And it might have been ball 4. Strikeout number 5 for Mendoza.
And again, he set up that pitch with a breaking ball, then a changeup, then he buzzes the fastball. Couldn't lay off it.
That's a pretty good movement right there, folks. You saw Jeff commit his swing because the pitch was about knee high, and then it was about ankle high by the time it got to the catcher. And now it's left to Tucker. 2 outs, another man in scoring position. Braves trailing 1-0. 1-0. It's amazing. The Braves coming out of a series against the Phillies where they won 5-4, 7-1, 9-1, 6-5. And the same problem they had with the Orioles.
Yeah, it is. It seemed like in that Phillies series they could do no wrong offensively. Whenever they needed a big hit, they got one. But this is very reminiscent of the series with the Orioles, and the Braves had run scoring problems despite getting good pitching.
Slow roller to the mound. Mendoza out of trouble again. Another runner left in scoring position. Braves have stranded 5 tonight, and 3 of them in scoring position. We've played 4.5. Skip Carey and Don Sutton heading your way. 1-0 Yankees.
And I think I'm looking up to you.
Yeah, well, as you should.
I feel like Siskel and Ebert. I think I've seen this movie already. 1-0 Yankees.
We had our offense is awful. We can't get anything done, can we?
No, leaving a lot of guys in scoring position, and you're not going to beat a good ball club unless you can push them across.
And we go to the bottom of the 5th. And Denny Nagel goes to work, and Charlie Hayes, it's a fly ball pretty well, but foul to right, and it's 0-1. If people only knew what went on in the booth, sometimes they wouldn't believe. 0-1 the count. Hayes, Whitten, and Curtis, the first 3. Yankees on top by 1. Into right field again. Tucker on the move. Can he get there? No. Up against the wall. Makes a heck of a play to recover it, but Hayes is at second with a double. That's bad news, because when they get a runner at second with nobody out, they've been able to move him over. We haven't.
That's a difference in the ball game. No surprise to see Hayes doing this. I was watching him at batting practice today. He spent the most of the time trying to hit the ball to the right side. It's almost like he knew that he wasn't going to get any pitches to pull off Denny Nagel. So he spent batting practice working on what he wanted to do in the game.
Mark Whitten, the batter. Runner at second, nobody out. Whitten lined to center his first time and takes a strike on the outside corner. Andrew Jones robbed him of a hit. So far, the news is not good from Yankee Stadium. And they're doing it with guys who, when you look at their earned run averages, you don't exactly cringe in fear. Mendoza 515. Kenny Rogers last night over 6. By the way, Keith Lockhart's base hit infield roller has now been changed to an error. I would assume on Luis Sojo. Fastball inside. It's 1-2.
Means I have to redo the summary of the 5th inning. Should I go back over to radio and do it? No runs, no hits, 1 error, 1 left.
Oh man, that's right. I hate it when this happens. The 1-2 pitch. Here it is. Got him. Breaking ball down and in. Whitten out on strikes. Number 3 for Nagel. First out of the inning. And Chad Curtis will be the batter.
We've seen some American League teams now, and normally I think there is the generalization that there's an American League way to play baseball. There's a National League way. The National League, more speed, hit and run, steal, bottom over. But the three teams that we have seen in the American League seem to do little ball more than most of the National League teams do. Baltimore did it. Toronto did it.
And I don't think it's any accident that all three of the managers of those teams have National League backgrounds.
I think you're right. Joe Torre, who is very successful in the National League.
Outside, Joe and Allie just purchased a new home, I understand, out on the island. 2 balls, no strikes.
Joe's daughter, a year and a half old, and starting to figure out colors, and he says she's talking a mile a minute. Loves to.
Well, he was a broadcaster for a while, so she got that honest. On the corner, 2 balls and a strike.
Says after late ball games like this morning, she comes bouncing in, hops in the bed, and says, white pillow, gray rug. She's learning colors and conversation, which is all well and good unless as a manager you get home at 2 o'clock.
Which you normally do. 2 balls and a strike. I hope Joe has got in the lotto okay today, that George let him come in and park. Obviously he did. I wonder what he would have done if you came in, parked your car, and tipped him. Thanks, buddy. Here's 50 cents.
Made you a vice president.
The 2-1 pitch. Pop foul back. It's 2-2. They have the same score here the Mets have, don't they? Isn't that Red Foley over there?
Yep.
Jeez.
'Tis he.
That's the only guy in New York they can find that can keep score. 12 million people here. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Curtis waits. Nagel delivers downstairs, and he's running full. 3 balls, 2 strikes. You know, last night we talked a long time about that neat protective device that Charlie Hayes wears.
Yeah.
I had forgotten that Dr. Robert Crow, one of our doctors, is the guy that invented that thing. It's called a C-flap. He missed inside. 2 on, 1 out. For Nagel, his first walk of the night. And while it's good for big leaguers, I think it's even better for little leaguers, because the problem in little league is there's always one kid who's athletic superior to everybody else. Even though he's the same age, he's bigger and stronger. And you get scared when your kid hits against that guy, because he's still a youngster and he doesn't always know where the ball is going. So
well, Dr. Crow's heart is with youth baseball. He has done a lot of work with Little League baseball.
Oh, yeah. So we want to get that straight and congratulate him on the invention. Posada pops it up on the infield. Long run for Javi. Can he get there? Yes, he can. 2 down. But now you got to get Derek Jeter with 2 on and 2 out. Jeter is 2 out of 2. He singled in the first, singled in the third, got picked off in the third inning. But he has handled Nagel okay to this point, and he's pitched another fine ball game here.
Then he shouldn't feel bad. He handles almost every pitcher. He's tops in the American League in on-base percentage, so he finds himself a way to get on base. The batting average is .290, but his on-base percentage got to be in the neighborhood of .440.
And you kids watching, did you see how he did that practice swing, making sure that he swings down on the ball rather than uppercutting it, which is the natural thing you want to do? A little bit outside. 1 ball, no strikes.
Well, he's not a power hitter. He's a line drive hitter, and that's the best kind of stroke for a line drive hitter. Bad equipment, bad timber.
Yeah, bad chip in the bat.
So
here comes a new War Club. 1-4-1 for the Yankees. 0-5-1 for the Braves. Houston has taken a 1-0 lead over Cleveland tonight. White Sox and Pirates scoreless in the 7th. Another big crowd at Yankee Stadium. Jeter out of the batter's box. 1 ball, no strikes, the count. Now we're ready to go. The runners lead. Snap throw to first. He's back. Curtis was victimized on the bases last night, but not so far tonight.
Javi Lopez is doing that more and more. It does 2 things. Every now and then you get an out, but it might shorten that lead by just enough that it might be the difference on a play at the plate, play at second, play at third. Who knows?
The 2-0 pitch. There's a strike over the outside corner. Jeter not so sure about that. Dan Regan, our director tonight. Coordinating producer for Braves baseball, Glenn Diamond. The 2-1 pitch. Swung and missed. It's 2-2. Hayes at second, Curtis at first. There are 2 out, and the count is even on the Yankees' fine young shortstop. Fly ball foul. David and Kelly Jones from Athens honeymooning here at Yankee Stadium. Can't use that one. Can't use that one. Can't. That's it. 2-2 the count. Nagel to Jeter. Upstairs, full count. The runners will go on the 3-2 pitch. Dwight Gooden and Greg Maddux pitch here tomorrow. We'll have it for you at 1 o'clock. Do we have a pregame show or anything, gentlemen? No pregame show.
Nagel made a good pitch there. I don't think he really expected to get the out, but he set up a number of things he can do.
There go the runners on the 3-2 pitch. He walked in there loaded for Luis Sojo. Normally you'd say who cares, but he's a hot hitter, though he's 0 for 2 tonight.
A lot of his teammates were kidding him around the batting cage today about something he said in the paper. Talk about high fastballs. He said, I got a high fastball. I can hit high fastballs.
You may not get a chance to do that here.
This is a different kind of arsenal that he's going to see.
Bases loaded, 2 out. Drive into left center field. Klesko on the run. He is there, and the inning is over. Sojo hit it pretty well. If he could have pulled it, he'd have been in business. But he could not, and the Braves get out of trouble in the 7th. 1 hit, but no runs, no errors, and 3 men left. At the end of 5, your score. What did I say, 7?
As we head to the 6th inning, it's a good time to do the Budweiser game summary. It has been a pitching matchup again tonight. The only run coming on a Jeter RBI single in the 3rd. Braves now without a run in 15 innings. It's been Nagel and it's been Mendoza, and that pretty much is your Budweiser game summary.
Chipper Jones leads things off.
I think we got a couple of frustrated gardeners in the bullpen, don't we? First Brad Clements and now Joe Borowski. Wonder if the burpees people know about them.
Chipper lines one into left center field, but Curtis is there. 1 out. 1 pitch, 1 out in the 6th.
That's 15 out of 21 that he has thrown first pitch strikes to. 15 out of 21 hitters.
Here's Fred McGriff. Fred tonight has wrapped into a double play and grounded to first. Thus he is 0 for 2. Ryan Klesko is on deck.
You know, for the last 4 or 5 weeks, Fred's been hitting the ball on the ground more than he is. He's usually a guy that elevates it a little, goes from alley to alley, but either he's swinging over the top of it or something, because he's giving more ground balls than we're used to seeing off his bat.
Yeah, and he's hitting more like Mark Grace than he is like Fred McGriff. Not a lot of power, but good average. Well, he hit that ball hard and almost took Ramiro Mendoza into center field with it. A runner at first with 1 out for Klesko, who's 1 for 2.
That's one of those base hits where you hope the ball stops long enough so you can get out of the way of it. That has dental work written all over it as it heads back up the middle.
Klesko stands in. Lined hard into the seats.
Look out.
Everybody appears to be all right down there. In fact, it went into the camera location first. I hope everybody's all right. Can't tell, really.
I think they're looking for the ball.
Posada to the mound for a word with his pitcher.
Well, Mendoza's given you a couple of angles. He's thrown up over the top and he drops down, and every now and then when he drops down, I think it's very deceptive to the hitters because he short arms the ball, comes right out of his jersey.
Klesko takes a strike on the outside corner. He didn't like that at all. 0-2. Nobody can find that foul ball that was hit down the right side. It's the white thing with red stitching on it.
It says American League.
Gene Budick. The 0-2 pitch to Klesko. Instead to first. McGriff is back. Yankees throw over a lot, I've noticed, in the last couple of games. They're doing this without Strawberry and Brian Boehringer and
Tim Raines.
There's a drive into deep right field. O'Neill looks up. That ball is gone. A line drive that skimmed over the right field wall about 350 feet from home plate, and just like that, the Braves have ended the drought and have the lead. The 7th surrendered by Mendoza this year. It didn't take that baby long to get out of here.
A bad 2-strike pitch. He had a number of things he could do to Ryan Klesko. No reason to lay this one down the middle. Outer half of the plate, just above the knees. Watch the extension from Ryan Klesko. Slight uppercut swing. Taking advantage of a little bit shorter right porch. He hit the ball hard.
Got out of here in a big hurry. Andrew Jones lines one into left center for a hit. Over fast and up with it. Witten. Andrew's going to try. He's got a great arm. And the throw gets away at second base, and he's in there. See, it's a double. A hustle double for Andrew Jones.
Andrew Jones has become the most aggressive base runner on the ball club. This is the 3rd or 4th time this year we've seen him hustle either from first to third or hustle himself into a double. Witten plays this kind of casually. When he comes up and sees he's going to have to gun it. Maybe overthrows just a little bit. It kicks away from the shortstop, but that's a good hustle double.
Mel Stottlemyre on his way to the mound to talk with his pitcher, who all of a sudden is starting to get hit. Activity is about to commence, it would appear, in the Yankee bullpen. They're moving around out there.
Key pitch in the inning is a 2-strike pitch to Ryan Klesko. You know, I know Greg Maddox's theory is not to waste a pitch, but also if you watch Greg Maddux doesn't hit the middle of the strike zone with it. He works something in, he works something out, and what Mendoza did is look like he tried to finish him off with a knee-high pitch right down the middle.
Jim Messier is the right-hander in their bullpen. And Javi ready to stand in. He's 0 for 2 on the night.
Mendoza's up to 83 pitches, better than a 2-to-1 ratio. 57 strikes, 26 balls. I'm glad you guys are getting a shot of Clarence Jones. Clarence Jones is a guy who does not seek any publicity. He waits for guys to come to him. He works very quietly in the background, but he is a good hitting coach.
Strike to Lopez, 0-1. Sometimes I think that quietness works against him. People don't think he's doing anything because he never toots his horn.
That's exactly right. But he's good. He's very conscientious. He cares so much about these hitters. And, you know, if you wanted him to stay here 24 hours a day and work, he'd do it.
Pickoff play at second, close. He went in standing up and almost paid the price.
Good quick move. Throw down a little bit. They might have had a shot at him. The tag coming up on the hip.
Cleveland has claimed a 2-1 lead over Houston. Grounded to short. Across the diamond in plenty of time to get Lopez. It takes a 2-out hit from Keith Lockhart, who has doubled and reached on an air.
Those shots of the dugout, though, once again showing the difference in a hitter's approach after an out or a home run. Home run, the seat that he takes is always the furthest one from where he enters the dugout. But if it's an out, then he immediately go right to that seat.
Lockhart stands in. They play him slightly toward right field. Nobody there as he twirled around. And Ramiro Mendoza out of Panama gets ready. 6'2", 154 is how they list him. A ball to count on Lockhart. Over the outside corner. Boy, a lot of room on the left side for him. Jeter is a little concerned about the runner at second base. He's cheated up the middle. And the whole shortstop area is wide open. See? He'll be a little further into that area than that. Ground ball, but right at Soho. He's got it. Close, but the inning is over. Lockhart gets down the line in good order. The Braves take the lead. 2 runs, 3 hits. They leave 1. And we go to the bottom half of the 6th inning. It's now a 2-1 Atlanta game. We go to the bottom half of the 6th inning. Paul O'Neill will lead it off. O'Neill, Fielder, Martinez, the first 3. The 3, 4, and 5 hitters for New York. Braves have their first lead of the series. It's 2-1, and O'Neill takes a strike. He has grounded to second, grounded to first.
When you've had trouble scoring runs and you get a couple, this is a big inning defensively. You like to get off the field and back in the dugout with a minimum number of pitches.
0-2 is the count.
Hitters feel like maybe they've figured a little something out. The quicker they can get back in there and start swinging, the better they like it.
0-2 the count. Strike 3 called. Fastball outside corner. O'Neill doesn't like it, but he's going to have to learn to get over it. That's 4 strikeouts. And Cecil Fielder, the batter.
Now here's a good 2-strike pitch. Right on the outside corner. Javi Lopez slides out there. And Denny Nagel hits the mitt right in the middle of the chest protector. Most of the time, if you're in the neighborhood of the strike zone, you're going to get that call.
Pirates have taken a 2-0 lead over the White Sox. Cardinals likewise over Minnesota. Details on the Delta scoreboard coming up soon. One and one the count to Cecil.
I think the Braves are finding that Cecil Fielder is a better breaking ball hitter than a fastball hitter, because Denny Nagel doesn't throw 99 miles an hour, but he threw it by him. Glavine was throwing it by him last night. A little bit of a hitch in his swing. You get it above the belt with a little bit on it, you can get it by him.
That's where that was, and he's in the hole 1-2. One out, nobody aboard. High pop into short left center. Who wants it? Klesko calls for it and has it for the second out. Oh, and Andrew Jones was right there. He can cover a lot of ground. 2 away. They're booing Fielder here. Well, of course, they boo everybody here. You go 0 for 3, you can just about expect to hear. They used to boo Martinez till he became an all-star.
They boo the Easter Bunny here.
Yeah, here in Philly. A strike at the knees, 0-1. You better forget that one, Paul, and go on about your business. Boy, Nagel.
Nagel
so far is the best inning.
Nagel is showing a better curveball this year than we saw off of him when he was in the Pirate uniform or after he joined the Braves, and he's spotting it in good position, in good counts, good places.
Oh, 2 pitch. He wishes he had that one back. At least it stayed in the park. Martinez pulls up at second with a 2-out double. I jinxed him when I said he was having his best inning.
Well, he tried to do the same thing on Martinez he did on O'Neill, only watch this ball come back and get played. You remember on the strikeout from O'Neill, Javi Lopez just sat there and wait for it to settle into his mitt. But on that one, you could see him reaching back toward the middle of the strike zone. So that one came back over the heart of the plate. And you're right, give up a double, but not the homer.
Charlie Hayes will be the batter. 2 8-1 for the Braves, 1 5-1 for the Bronx Bombers.
Hayes is grounded to short and hit one to right center field. In batting practice today, Skip, he was working a lot on hitting the ball to the right side.
I got a question for you. It shocked me. First, the pitch to Hayes, a strike on the corner. Who do you think in batting practice is by far the leading home run hitter for the Yankees?
In batting practice?
In batting practice. Bob Watson was telling.
Mark Whitten?
Wade Boggs.
Really?
Yes. Says he hits 15 out every night to deep right field.
Then he gets in the game and hits line drives all over the ballpark.
Flare to left, base hit to right. And I started watching after he mentioned it, and he's right. He just smokes ball after ball into the right field seats.
No, he would have been way down the list before I got to him.
Me too. I wasn't showing off. I got told. Let's see if, what happens on this 0-2 pitch. Nagel to Hayes. They go outside again. Further out, 1-2. Hoping he would chase it, but he did not.
This count, a lot of times Denny Nagel likes to come inside, hit that inside corner, maybe have a hitter give up on it, but Charlie Hayes is a smart hitter. If you're going to come in there, I think you got less of a chance of him taking it for a strike. Probably your margin of safety is greater away than trying to come inside.
The 1-2 out of play to the right. It's still a ball and 2 strikes. Javi to the mound to make sure that they're on the same wavelength when this next pitch is hurled plateward. No action in the Atlanta bullpen. Our old friend Paul Mastrapasqua, former Braves conditioning instructor, now works here for the Yankees. For Joe Torre.
Along with Charlie Wanzowitz.
Yeah, he's on the support staff with Mike Borzello. A ball and 2 strikes. And the 1-2 low and outside. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Giants are ready to call it a night. Seattle leads them 15-3 in the ninth. The Giants won last night.
Giants, one of the best one-loss records against the American League of any of the teams. I guess Montreal and they are tops of wins against the American League.
And we're near the bottom. 2-5 into center field. Andrew Jones on the run. He's got it. 1 hit, no runs. That ball was really hit. No errors, 1 left at the end of 6. 2-1 Atlanta.
Top of the 7th, Braves up 2-1. Let's take a look at what's on deck for the Braves. One more here in Yankee Stadium. Then it's on to Montreal. We will have all 5 of those games for you on TBS, taking you right up to the All-Star break. Tomorrow's matchup for the 105 game. Greg Maddux is 10-3. He'll be going against Dwight Gooden, 3-0. And that's what's on deck for the Braves. Oh, great one.
Right you are, Mr. Sutton. And Mark Lemke leads off the 7th inning. And hits 1 foul. An old friend has a grand slam tonight. His first home run of the year. Terry Pendleton. And Cincinnati leads Milwaukee by a score of 8-1.
Boy, it's a good thing he didn't go on the DL.
Yeah, that's still sort of strange. The 0-1 pitch. Tap towards short. Should be easy. Jeter waits, fields, throws low. Martinez bails him out. 1 away. Lemke 0 for 3 on the night. Top of the order, Jeff Blauser. He's 1 for 3. Has struck out his other 2 times.
That smoothness on both ends of that play. Jeter is one of the most graceful shortstops in baseball, and Martinez with the long stretch saved him that throw. Good play.
In the 7th, the Red Sox continue to lead Florida 5-2. The Braves lead coming into tonight's action 3.5. Inside to Jeff. 1 ball, no strikes.
Blauser hasn't had any fun against Mendoza tonight. He got a base hit leading off the ball game, but Mendoza has thrown him some breaking balls that have been in good spots, and just like that one.
Broke his bat. 2 down. Sawed off on that one. Michael Tucker has a couple of hits, and he's the batter. With his 2 hits, he's at 306 for the year. He tapped to the mound on his other trip. Talking with Glavine last night. Naturally, he was pleased with the way he pitched. Sorry that he didn't win, but really thrilled about pitching in Yankee Stadium. He didn't get to do that. He pitched against the Yankees, of course, but in Atlanta, he would have pitched Game 7 had there been one. And he said that for the rest of his life, he'll always wonder what would have happened in that game.
I think if you like baseball at all and you go up and you grow up knowing some of the history and the traditions of baseball, this is one of the places you'd like to, I don't care whatever position you play, it's one of the places you'd like to spend a day playing.
Oh, absolutely. And even first the pitch, Tucker takes outside. Even coming to the ballpark, you look at the old hotels that are very seedy now that used to house the great players of the Yankees and even of the Giants, who used to play right across the Harlem River. There's the strike right in there. 2-1.
Remember the first time I pitched here, I grew up a Yankee fan down in the South, and I came out a day early the first day and spent it right out there walking around, and you know, you could almost hear the voice of Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig, and certainly you felt like you could actually close your eyes and see the plays of Mantle and see Casey Stengel. There is a tremendous amount of nostalgia here. The ghost of a lot of baseball games past are still right in this park.
The 2-2 hit right back to the mound again. Mendoza has a very, very easy inning. 1, 2, 3, nothing doing. Bottom of the 7th. Braves lead it 2-1.
We were talking about a lot of the history and the tradition and the nostalgia, Skip. This is called Monument Park, now open to the fans. The Yankees, more than any other ball club, have more retired numbers, and the plaques All the great legends of Yankee Stadium right out there behind the bullpens in center field.
And the fans can now check it out. Prior to the game, funny hop for Chipper. Good play. Witten can run, but he can't outrun the baseball. 1 down. And that's just up Nagel's alley. 1 pitch, 1 out in the 7th.
When I was first a Yankee fan, those were in play out there. Remember?
Oh, I know it, yeah.
461 feet. That's a long way. Now 399.
I was a little kid. I came with my dad here when we were playing the Giants, when the Cardinals were playing the Giants, and watched a Sugar Ray Leonard title fight.
Did you really?
I can just barely remember flashes of it. I must have been 7 or 8 years old. That was my first look at Yankee Stadium as a boxing ring. Robinson won, and he didn't bite anybody.
He must have been a boxer.
The 0-1 almost hit him inside. A ball and a strike. Graham Lloyd begins to throw in the Yankees bullpen. A big, rangy left-hander who made life miserable for us in the World Series last year.
Boy, did he make a lot of good pitches in this series. After a year that had been a tough one for him because he was a part of that ill-fated trade between Milwaukee and the Yankees.
Pop foul back and out of play. It's 1-2. Giants mounted a rally in the 9th. They got a run, but just fell short 15-4. They were out hit 16-8.
See who won that game?
Jamie Moyer, now 8-2, a soft tossing lefty. Former National Leaguer. All the scores coming up. I think I said that already on the Delta scoreboard. 2 balls, 2 strikes. The count on Curtis.
That's more the kind of game that we would expect out of Denny Nagel. More ground outs.
If you could time travel, that's one thing I'd like to do, is come back here in 1926 or 7. And see this place then in this neighborhood and those great players.
See, I'd like to go to Don Larson's perfect game. I'd like to sit and watch that.
Three balls, 2 strikes. They walked him. That's a tying run aboard. He was ahead in the count, let him get away, and that's walk number 3 for Nagel in the game. And then may get the Atlanta bullpen to stir around. May have to put down the rake and go to work out there. Jorge Posada is the batter with a runner at first and 1 out. He is grounded to second. Foul to the catcher.
Dad scouts for the Colorado Rockies. His uncle, one of the best players in minor league history. Leo Posada, who played for a number of years in the Houston Colt 45s and the Houston Astros organization.
Throw to first. Runner is back.
I think Leo is now, I'm not sure if he still is. He was a minor league hitting instructor for the Dodgers. Boy, could he hit.
Posada out of Puerto Rico takes one low.
Isn't he the kid that came from Puerto Rico over to Alabama to go to junior college?
Went to Calhoun Community College. Is that in Alabama?
Yeah.
Doesn't
Over
say,
Decatur area, I think.
Yeah, Decatur, Alabama. The let's go Yankees cheer rings out. And the 1-0 pitch, low, 2-0. The plate beginning to jump around.
The way Nagel and the way Maddox and the way Glavine pitches, getting wild is a matter of inches, not a matter of feet like you see it a lot of times. Nagel's been hitting the outside corner, now missing a couple of inches. Still good pitches, but not quite as precise as earlier.
High pop foul back and out of play, and then Denny battles back in the count. It's 2 balls and a strike. 2 8-1 for the Braves, 1 5-1 for the Yanks. Don Sutton, Skip Carey with you from Yankee Stadium. Posada steps back in there. High, 3-1. Still no bullpen action for Atlanta. Willie Randolph runs through the signs at third. You could hit and run in this spot. You could just give him the hit sign. It would make sense to give him a take sign. Let's see what happens. You could argue for any of those three things. Not running, not taking, and he pops it up. Let's see if it stays in play. McGriff comes over. He's got room, and he's got the baseball. There's a big second out, and the runner is still at first.
That's a break for the Braves because he chased ball 4. That's probably why he's shaking his head. He knows he swung at one up out of the strike zone. Watch where this pitch is. That's up about shoulder high. McGriff takes a look at how much room he has, sneaks another peek, and then picks it up. Gets out number 2.
So there are 2 out, and the runner is still at first. Derek Jeter stands in there. The stretch and the pitch. Strike, fastball outside corner, 0-1. Mets bat in the 9th, trailing Detroit 8-4.
Detroit's hit 10 homers and scored better than 20 runs off of what was a really good pitching staff for the Mets.
Third bad outing in a row for Bobby Jones tonight. He didn't fare well against us. Chad Curtis is back. He's 3 out of 3 if you're thinking about a stolen base, and that would not be a bad move with the top of the order up there and 2 out. Jeter has 4 homers, 36 RBIs. That's not bad for a leadoff guy. Not running, base hit right field. Curtis will stop at second. First and second, 2 out. And here's Luis Sojo, who's 0 for 3 tonight.
I think more than any other player that the Braves will have seen in interleague play, Braves fans are going to start gaining a bigger respect for Derek Jeter. It's easy to like him defensively. He does that so gracefully, but he's had some good swings off of the Braves pitching in these 2 games.
The right-hand hitter digs in. Fast men on the bases. Tying run at second. Go ahead run at first with 2 out. Nagel to Sojo. Strike upstairs, 0-1.
That's a break because he usually doesn't let anything straight belt up pass. Notorious first ball fastball hitter. I'm sorry, he may have outguessed himself there.
0-1 the count. No, excuse me. The runners edge away. McGriff, of course, plays behind the runner at first. They play Sojo around to right, and the count evens at 1-1. A lot of room on the right side of the infield. Lemke is more or less, well, he's changing his position now.
Sojo just sneaked a peek at Chipper Jones at third. In batting practice, he was hitting everything up the middle. He didn't try to pull a single pitch in BP.
Popped him up. That should get him out of the inning. Who wants the ball? Lemke calls for it, and the inning is over. So Nagel gets into and then gets out of some danger in the 7th. 1 hit. No runs, no errors. 2 left, and the Yankees have left 6 in the last 3. And a 7, 2-1 Atlanta.
Look at the Delta scoreboard. They had another good one for bragging rights in Canada. Rondell White's home run, the difference in that ball game. The Cubs over Kansas City, a home run for Glanville. Anaheim beat Colorado, a low-scoring game for Coors Field. Oakland 8-6 over San Diego. Oakland with 3 homers. Seattle pounded San Francisco, 4 home runs in that one, including a pair by Cruz. Boston is now leading Florida in the bottom of the 8th inning. The Mets getting beat up by Detroit 8-4, 5 home runs for Detroit. On the other page, Baltimore solo home runs by Webster and Palmeiro. Now it's a 3-1 ball game. Cincinnati had a 7-run 7th. You see the score there. White Sox trail Pittsburgh 3-0. Cleveland with 3 in the 5th trail Houston by 1 still. St. Louis had 2 in the 4th. That's the only scoring in that ball game. And Texas is at L.A. just a tad later on. And you're up to date on the Delta scoreboard.
And Graham Lloyd is on to pitch. 6'7", 235-pound left-hander out of Geelong, Victoria, Australia.
Yeah, one Aussie.
And Chipper fouls it away. In the World Series last year, he was 1-0 in 4 games. 2 2/3 innings, all zeros except for 4 strikeouts.
And it seemed like all 4 of those strikeouts came at critical times in the ball game.
He was tough. His 0-1 to Chipper just missed a ball and a strike. Came up in the Milwaukee organization, was 0-2 with the Yankees during the regular season with an earned run average of 17.5 in 13 games, but strike to Chipper. In the divisional series in 2 games, he pitched an inning, allowed nothing. In the league championship series, he was in 2 games, pitched an inning and 2/3, gave up nothing. And we told you about the World Series, so he got it going at the right time.
He was just waiting for the right spot.
Swinging bunt, sort of, but foul down the third base line. 1-2. He went to Geelong Technical School in Australia. He now lives in Narwari, Australia.
Along with his roo and his billabong.
I guess so. Been known to waltz with Matilda a time or 2. No, I don't know if he's married or not. Just kidding, folks. He strikes out Chipper Jones. 1 away. So Lloyd picks up where he left off in the series.
6 strikeouts for Yankee pitching. Good outing for Mendoza. Take the 1 pitch away, the 0-2 pitch to Klesko. You know, we might be tied at 1 apiece and could play on forever, but Klesko got an 0-2 pitch right down the middle of the strike zone.
7 innings, 8 hits, 2 runs, 5 strikeouts. Fred Single back in the 6th, his first hit against American League teams in 18 at-bats this year.
I bet he wouldn't vote for interleague play.
It doesn't sound like it. Fast strike over the outside corner.
When you're big as Graham Lloyd and you take advantage of your leverage, pitching can look so easy. It looks like he puts no effort into this.
And you got to remember, Randy Johnson's even bigger than this guy. No action in the Atlanta bullpen. The heart of the order up there for New York in the 8th. O'Neill, Fielder, Martinez do. Outside, a ball and 2 strikes. Mets still batting in the 9th. It's now 8-5. They're trying to give Detroit a finish. Dribbled foul down the third base line and into the Atlanta dugout and knocked somebody's hat off the top step. 1-2 the count. Fortunately, a head was not in the hat, so no harm done. Made him look awful with a good breaking ball. 2 down. He struck them both out.
His leverage, we were talking about that. Watch how high his release point is. At 6'7", you're starting the ball downhill anyway. And then when you put some break on it, the highest point from this ball is when it leaves his hand right there. That's a good spot and a good pitch. You can see why this guy'd be tough on lefties.
Here's Ryan Klesko, the hero of the night to this point for Atlanta, with a 2-run homer his last time. 1 ball, no strikes. .105 game tomorrow. We'll have it for you at 1 o'clock. Inside 2-0. Maddox and Gooden tomorrow, and then it's off to Montreal. 3rd trip to Canada in our last 3 trips. Just to make sure I don't make those custom people mad, I'm not even going to visit any farms in New York. And you don't bring any livestock in either. They get all bent out of shape if you do that. 2 balls and a strike. Pop foul back and out of play. Here's what has given Atlanta the lead.
An 0-2 pitch, knee high right down the middle. Didn't have altitude, but it had longitude and quickitude.
2 balls, 2 strikes. He's run it full. Andrew Jones is next. No bullpen action for either team at the moment.
Joe really gets excited in the dugout, doesn't he?
Yeah. Grounded. Martinez. Lloyd covers. And just like that, the inning is over. He gets us 1, 2, 3. Nothing doing in the 8th. Bottom half. Part of the order for the Yanks. 2-1 Atlanta. Paul O'Neill will lead off the bottom of the 8th. Danny Bautista checks in to play 8th inning. To play left field in the 8th inning. He's not going to play 8th inning. That's against the law. Brad Clontz and Alan Embry throwing on the bullpen. Clontz is the right-hander. And O'Neill fouls it off. Oh, and 1 the count. Nagel kicks and fires. Fastball high and outside. A ball and a strike to count. He has pitched another fine ball game, but he's fighting for his life. Up 2-1. O'Neill mad at himself there. He was looking for something else and had to take a breaking ball.
It's a memory of a couple of breaking balls that he's chased out of the strike zone that got him taking that one. Denny Nagel has done a job on the heart of the batting order. He might get that breaking ball right here, the one he was looking for the pitch before.
Just missed outside, and it was a breaking ball, and it's 2-2. They haven't screamed the attendance at us yet, but as soon as they do, we'll let you know.
Both O'Neill and Martinez last night would look for a pitch away in this count and try to hit it to left.
Oh, I got a high fastball and had a great swing, but he could only foul it to the screen. A lot of talk about the Yankees moving out of Yankee Stadium.
Where are they going to go?
There's talk of them moving downtown, but the people, the Broadway people and the Javits Convention Center people are afraid of the congestion. There's other talk about New Jersey, but nobody wants them to go there. And the governor of New Jersey, Governor Whitman, has not even made a bid for them because she feels they're a New York team. So I don't know. Fouled away again. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this ballpark. It's a wonderful facility. The neighborhood's a little rough. Two and two the count. One good thing about New Jersey, of course, would be there'll be plenty of parking, and Mr. Steinbrenner could get his car out whenever he wanted. The 2-2 pitch. Corked into center, but Andrews going back. He makes it look easy. 1 down. That ball was hit right on the nose. But it's only a noisy out, and here's Fielder, who, as you know, with 1 swing could tie this thing up.
See, that's an at bat where both the pitcher and the hitter did what they wanted, but the Braves got the out because he got the pitch he was looking for. Breaking ball down and away. Hit it as hard as you possibly can, but to the deepest part. There's been a guy there ever since I.J. Rosenberg invented baseball. I mean, Abner Doubleday invented baseball. So just kidding. Just kidding.
Where have I heard that line before? 1 ball, no strike.
What? Just kidding?
Just kidding, yeah. 1 out, nobody aboard. Get ready to be vented. You say anything about those sacred cows over there, boy, you pay the price. 1-1 the count.
You know what?
Yeah, me too. And the horse they rode in on, as the old saying goes. The 1-1 popped up, foul territory. Javi couldn't locate it, but it doesn't matter. It's out of play behind the dugout.
Boy, they've made some good pitches on Cecil Fielder tonight.
Crowd here is all over him. He has 9 homers, 49 RBIs, but this big guy, you're thinking 35, 40 homers a year. And he's on a pace for 18 and about 98 runs driven in.
1 out of 3 last night. It was a single. And now they got him 0 for 3 tonight. And Braves have been doing it by throwing him fastballs above the belt. The only thing he has had to hit has been heaters above the belt. The off-speed pitches have been out of the strike zone.
Pop foul back again. He lunged at a pitch down and away. Still 1-2.
2 home runs shy of 300.
Cincinnati beat Milwaukee 9-1. Dave Burbas 5-8. Jose Mercedes 3-4. Joe Oliver and Terry Pendleton had homers. Tomorrow Ben McDonald against Brett Tomko. Did it hit him? Yes, it did. That hurts. Nagel wanted to go down and in, but he sure didn't want to hit him.
I'm not so sure he wanted to go down and in as much as he wanted to go in. And a lot of times with a guy like Nagel, when you hold on to the ball and overthrow. See, Javi Lopez has got that mitt about belt high, but he just held on to it a little too long. Tried to overthrow it right off the left shin.
Pat Kelly carrying the tying run, runs for Fielder. And here's Tino Martinez, who hit a couple of double plays last night. We could use another one, but he's a fine hitter. He rifled a double earlier in this game. He's 1 out of 3.
And the Braves have stayed away from him. One of the reasons he's had such a good year is his ability to adjust. So watch for him to look for something to take over Blauser's head.
Look at these fans. They're all on their feet. Great enthusiasm. 1 ball, no strikes. One on, 1 out. Swung and missed a breaking ball to even the count. Martinez angry with himself. He's out of the batter's box for a moment. Javi blocked it. There goes Kelly. The throw's way late. It'll be a wild pitch. That time Lopez did everything right. He shifted, he used his body, the ball just bounced away a little too far.
And here's the difference right here. He did shift, he kept it in front of him, but he's not able to get a good grip on the ball right away. Double clutch once, and that's the difference, because Kelly got a little bit of a late jump. And that was even close after he double clutched on it. So if he's able to grab that ball out of the mitt right away, Braves had a shot at him.
So the count goes to 2-1 on Martinez. Charlie Hayes is next, a tough left-hand hitter. Rather a tough right-hand hitter. Martinez, the left-hand hitter. 2 balls and a strike. He got away with a pitch there, didn't he, Don?
Yep. You know it's going to be a good night when you can throw a couple of those and you don't get hurt. That's the second one tonight Denny Nagel has gotten away with. That's one that a lot of times Martinez will put into the right field seat. But he may have tipped off something there. The fact that he didn't pull that ball has got to tell you that he's looking for something out away from him.
Mark Wohlers now in the Atlanta pen. The 2-2. Swung and a pop into short left. Bautista comes on. And he's got it for the second out. So now here's Charlie Hayes, and Bobby Cox has a decision to make. He's got Wohlers in his bullpen. Here he comes. He's trotting out. That normally means he either hasn't made up his mind yet or he's not going to take him out. Let's see what happens.
A lot of times he's waiting for the response he gets from his pitcher. He's going to ask a couple of questions here to Denny Nagel. And he'll wait for Denny to answer the question. Now here's what we can do. Here's the ways we can go. I can bring him in. You've done a good job to this point. He's thrown 125 pitches, so that probably has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, he's going for the hook. So that's going to do it for Denny Nagel. He did a wonderful job here, and Mark Wohlers comes on with 2 out in the 8th inning as Bobby Cox makes the Bell South call to the bullpen. Fine job by Denny Nagel. 7 2/3 innings, 6 hits, 3 walks, 4 strikeout, a hit batsman, and Mark Wohlers gets the call out of the Atlanta pen to try to go the last inning and a third. Wohlers has faced Hayes many times in regular season play. Charlie is 2 out of 10 against him. Hayes is hitting .265 against right-hand pitching, and Wohlers completes his warm-up tosses. Boy, these two teams, when they get together, some great ball games. In fact, some of our most exciting games, the 3 against Baltimore, even though we lost them, the Braves lost them all, were wonderful games to watch. Likewise in Toronto, the chance to see Roger Clemens and all the excitement of those games. And these 2 ball games, I can't judge what happened in the other games in interleague play when other teams were involved, but ours have been just great baseball. And here we go. Wohlers tied for 4th in the league in saves with 17. It's a final in Detroit. They clubbed the Mets again, 8-6. New York scored 4 in the 8th, 2 in the 9th, but lost the game. Only 14,849 in the Motor City, so interleague play is not a big deal there. And Hayes ready to go to work. Mark Whitten will be next. He would turn around and hit left-handed. There are 2 out in the inning. 2 8-1 for Atlanta, 1 6-1 for New York. Looks like Mike Stanton might be throwing in their bullpen, and now a right-hander is up as well. Hard to see. Can't see any of the bullpens anymore, hardly. Hayes stands in. Messier is up and throwing. He's the right-hander. Hayes sports Dr. Crow's C-flap, that invention that protects his cheekbone. Hayes has something in his eye, I guess.
2 for 10 regular season against Mark Wohlers.
Right you are, Don. Something to stretch by Wohlers. Ground ball up the middle. Lemke, a diving stop. What a play, and the inning is over. Not only did he stop the ball, he saved a certain tying run and got the out. That is a major league play. Look at it again as we go out. No hits, no runs, no errors, 1 left. That's It's a gold star play at the end of 8. 2-1 Atlanta.
Saved a run. This is a good play by Mark Lemke. You watch, he's moving in, getting set. Not only does he get to it, dive and catch it, but how quickly he gets back up to his feet. That's a play that you would have thought that would have been bang bang at first at best, but he's got Charlie Hayes out by 6 steps. That's a good play by Lemke.
And Jim Messier is the new Yankee pitcher. He's out of the Queens. Lives now in Smithtown, New York. Went to Eckerd College down in Florida. He's another big guy, 6'1", 195-pounder. You see his numbers on the year. Last year, 1-1 with the Yankees. Had a cup of coffee with Seattle earlier in his career. Was a 3rd-round pick by the Mariners back in 1991, so he was a highly regarded prospect. A little insurance would be nice for Atlanta. Messier misses outside. Pittsburgh shut out the White Sox tonight, 3-0. Steve Cook got the win. Rich Loisel got his 8th save. James Baldwin, the loser. They had 22,000 in Pittsburgh, no home runs.
Messier was a part of a trade that also brought Tino Martinez here. He and Jeff Nelson for Russ Davis and left-handed pitcher Sterling Hitchcock going to Seattle.
Advantage, New York. 3-0, and the natives here are restless, and there are 39,596 of them in the ballpark. Pitch is a strike. It's 3-1. Line down the right field line. O'Neill's not going to get that ball. We might have a play at second base. He's up and firing. But Andrew is sliding in there with a leadoff double to start the ninth. His second double of the evening. He's 2 out of 4, and Javi Lopez is the batter.
Pitch out away from him, a little bit of an inside out swing, and he has his mind made up from right here that he's going to try for 2. Paul O'Neill is a good right fielder, but he really doesn't have a right fielder's arm. That throw didn't have a whole lot on it into the cutoff man.
Wonder why they don't flip-flop their outfielders.
With Whitten out there, I don't know. Good
Whitten.
question, because Whitten has a cannon.
Javi is 0 for 3. And he hits one fair into the corner. That'll get a run home. And Lopez will be on his way to second base. That's another double, and it's 3-1. And Mr. Messier is not going so good.
There is one time when you can excuse a guy not getting the runner over to third. That's when he gets him home. He's got a pitch here that's easy to pull into the corner. Played very well by Whitten. That's a tricky corner.
And many of the Yankee faithful are headed out into the streets of the Bronx and off into the night. Strike to Lockhart, 0-1. 3-1 Atlanta. This thing isn't over yet. Let's get at least one more. Just missed outside. 2-0.
Lockhart's looking for a pitch he can pull.
That was the first hit with a runner in scoring position in this series. Braves are now 1-14. Phil Simmons keeping us up to date on all the statistics in his usual flawless style. The road warrior is going good. One and 2 the count. 2 balls, 2 strikes to Lockhart, who has doubled, reached on an error, and grounded to second. Mark Lemke is next. He's hitless, but he made the play of the game so far. No doubt about that. High pop, short right field. Javi's going to tag, but Soho calls for it. Now at the last second, O'Neill makes the catch. That was very nearly a collision. Lockhart tried to do the right thing. He got the ball to the right side, but he got it in the air. We haven't been able to get the runners over from second tonight. Here's the Lumber. We'll be with you at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Understand there'll be no tees tomorrow because it's such a short turnaround, but we'll have the game for you at 1 o'clock. Cardinal is waving Mark Whitten in. Strike is called. 0-1. With Lopez, you have a catcher running, so it's going to take one in the alley to get him home, perhaps. Braves have hit him 10-6, outscored him 3-1. Fastball away, evens the count. In the 7th, Houston now 6-3 over Cleveland. Texas and the Dodgers about to get started. Ground ball to the right side. We got that too late. 2 down. Runner to third. And the top of the order, and Jeff Blauser will be the hitter. Boston beat Florida tonight, 9-2 the final. Vaughn Eshelman the winner, Pat Rapp the loser. Jim Corsi a save. They had 25,000 in. Boston Braves could go back up by 4.5 if they can get 3 more outs here.
It'll be a good pitching matchup there tomorrow. Kevin Brown, 2.6 earned run average, only 7-5 against Tom Gordon, one of the best curveballs in baseball. Gordon with a 3 earned run average as a game under 500.
I remember talking to John Sherholtz about Gordon. He said his curveball's so good it was too good. But
he couldn't throw it for strikes, and they wouldn't call it. That's right.
Ground ball to third should end the inning. Hayes across the diamond in time, and the inning is over. But the Braves get a run on 2 hits. They do leave 1. Bottom of the 9th, Mark Wohlers will try to close the deal. It's 3-1 Atlanta. We go to the bottom half of the 9th inning. Nice lid there, buddy. Another fan downing a Coke. And we go to the bottom of the 9th. For the Yankees, Mark Whitten, Curtis, and Posada are the scheduled hitters. They have on their bench Wade Bach, Scott Pose, Mariano Duncan, Joe Girardi, Jim Fox. We'll see how they play it here as we go to the bottom of the 9th. Mark Whitten leads it off. Whitten stands in there. He's looking for his first hit of the series. Mark's a fine fella, but he can wait a day or two if he'd like before he starts hitting again. Wohlers into the wind and the pitch. He shortened a bunt and took it, I guess, high. 1 ball, no strikes.
How's he done against Wohlers, Skip?
He's 0 for 1 in regular season play. Good question, Don. Probing question, and I was happy to analyze it for you. The 1-0 pitch. A little low. 2-0. We don't need this.
Mark himself was quoted the last time we were up here in New York as saying he is not right now 100% pleased with his command.
The 2-0 pitch. Here it is. High ball 3. A base runner brings a potential tying run to the plate, but I'm sure you know that. I know Mark Wohlers knows it. Three balls, no strikes. He'll be taking 1, maybe 2 here. Well, it doesn't. Oh, that's a strike. Thank you. Looked like it was outside. 3-1. He might take again. With the Yankees down by 2.
Might have been a gift for the Braves.
Oh, I think so.
As far as home plate umpire Ed Hickox was setting up over the inside shoulder.
3-2, and he was taking all the way, so you're down to 1 pitch here. on the leadoff man in the ninth with the Braves on top by 2. Wohlers seeking his 18th save, and Nagel trying to go to 12-1. He walked it nowhere near. You get it in the area, he might swing, but Mark couldn't do it, and the tying run comes to the plate. In the person of Chad Curtis.
Bobby Cox is trying to get Fred McGriff's attention. He wants him to play right behind Whitten. I think he wants him right behind him. I don't like the idea of playing way back and letting him waltz down the second. We'll see how far he goes.
Because you got a shot at a double play,
Exactly.
which really would turn the inning upside down.
If you play all the way back, he gets a running jump. And any base hit prolongs the inning. You get that, Yankees get that first run. There are a lot of ways you can get that second one, so he's probably going to stay right there close behind him.
Sandy Alomar got a hit tonight at Houston. That's 27 games in a row for the Cleveland Country. Curtis waits. Low, 1 ball, no strikes. The scoreboard says get loud, and the fans do. The 1-0 delivery. Here it is. Right in there, 1-1.
I guess I'm just so used to watching National League games that I would expect right here in this situation to see Wade Boggs.
Yeah, I would too.
But I don't see him. He's not hitting here. A right-hander against the right-hander Wohlers, and he's not on deck.
Posada's still on deck. The 1-1. Breaking ball for a strike, but it was up in the zone. That's not where he wants it. Though he'll take it. A ball and 2 strikes. You see Boggs still just sitting on the bench. He's not even swinging a bat down in the tunnel. Wohlers is ahead. That's, of course, where he likes to operate the 1-2 pitch. Here it is. Just missed the outside corner. 2-2. Even Curtis wasn't too sure about that one.
Let's see where this was.
Outside.
Probably the right call, but we've seen these call strikes before.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Line fouled on the right side, way out of play into the upper deck. Same 2 teams tomorrow. We'll have it for you at 1 o'clock, and then in Montreal Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, and Sunday afternoon before the All-Star break. Then the Mets, the Phillies, the Rockies, and the Dodgers all come to town on a 4-team, 12-game homestand, which starts on the 10th of July against New York. The 2-2 pitch. Here it is. Swung and lined hard, but fouled on the right side. He got around on that one just a little bit better. It's still 2-2.
A little hard to see the signs here at Yankee Stadium. 2 things you can note. Javi Lopez has gone to the almost white paint on his fingers, so you can see them there on the nails. Second thing, it doesn't look like he's using finger signs at all. He's using waggle signs, fist, and then move them back and forth to get location or the breaking ball. See?
The 2-2 pitch threw his bat as he struck out. There's the first out of the inning. Curtis out on strikes, 1 away.
Good breaking ball, good spot. Down and away. Got him.
Here's Jorge Posada turning around to hit from the left side. Posada, as a left-hand hitter, only 16 out of 69, but he does have his homer and 5 of his 7 RBIs from this side. He's hitless tonight. He has never batted against Wohlers in a regular season game. The runner is still at first. Posada takes a strike. Well, when Wohlers, he argues about it, but when Wohlers starts with a strike, it makes things a lot easier because it gives him a chance to throw all his pitches if he wants to.
He has a couple of unhittable pitches in his arsenal, but all of a sudden when you have to take a little off or back a little off to get it in the strike zone, it changes the hitter's approach to it.
The 0-1 pitch. Swung and missed. That was down and in.
That's what, if the first one is called a ball, I bet you he wouldn't have swung at that. There's no reason to.
Yep.
No reason to.
So now Wohlers is in tall cotton. He's ahead 0-2. But a lot of 0-2 pitches have been hit and hit hard tonight, including the 2-run homer by Ryan Klesko. That's why you got to get 3 of them by the hitter. The 0-2 pitch about to be made. Struck him out. Splitter. Posada's out of there. 2 are out. It's all up to Derek Jeter.
Nasty 2-strike pitch, but both of these pitches were all set up by that knee-high fastball that he got called on strike 1. That's nowhere near the strike zone. But the late break and the velocity on it fooled the young catcher.
Runner at first, 2 out, tying run at the plate. Jeter has 4 home runs this year. He's 3 for 3 tonight, all singles with a walk. Luis Sojo is next. He's raised his average 6 points tonight to 292. Braves play him around toward right. Now McGriff well behind the runner at first. There goes Witten, and here's the pitch, and it's outside, and Witten will probably not be given a stolen base. Defensive indifference is the call, the old DI. 1 ball, no strikes.
Don't get to write that in your scorebook a lot.
No, you don't, but it's always a great thrill to do it. The 1-0 pitch. Upstairs, 2-0. Sojo would, or a pinch hitter would be next. This time he falls behind in the count. A walk and 2 strikeouts. He hasn't needed anybody but the catcher in this inning to this point. The 2-0 pitch. Ground ball. McGriff has it. He'll take it himself, and the Braves win the game 3-1. Jeter swinging on a 2-0 pitch, down by 2 runs, grounds to first, and the Braves have evened the series and set up a rubber game for tomorrow. No hits, no runs, no errors, a runner left, and the Braves win it by a final score of 3-1, and Denny Nagel is 12-1.
And our AutoZone player of the game. Last night you needed good pitching. Tonight the Braves needed more good pitching, and Denny Nagel, like Tom Glavine, gave it to him. 7 2/3 innings, a 6-hitter, only 1 earned run. He is now tied for the major league lead in wins. He's our AutoZone player of the game. Mark Wohlers saves it. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll give you the rest of the totals.
Baseball on the Superstation is brought to you by Brewery Fresh Budweiser, to remind you that fresh beer tastes better. And now introducing you, Born on Dating. It's the day your bud was born. Is your beer fresh? And by the 62,000 professionals at Delta Airlines, who proudly put you on top of the world.
Braves win at 3-1. Here's a look at the rest of the numbers. 10 hits, 1 error with 7 stranded for the Braves. The Yankees a half a dozen hits, an error. They stranded 9. Nagel goes to 12-1. He now ties Bobby Jones and Roger Clemens for the most wins in the major leagues. Mendoza falls to 3-3. Give Mark Wohlers credit for his 18th save, the difference in the ballgame. Ryan Klesko's 13th home run. Braves now improved to 3-4 against the American League skip, and for Denny Nagel, another good outing on the road. He's 8-1 away from Atlanta now.
And we should not forget the great play by Mark Lemke that turned the game around as well. Our next Braves telecast is tomorrow at 1 o'clock against the Yankees. Coming up next here on the Superstation, Sylvester Stallone stars as a truck driver turned professional arm wrestler in.
Have you seen this? This is good.
Is it?
Yeah, it's good.
In Overt. Can I finish now or what? I'm going to start all over. Next Braves telecast tomorrow at 1 o'clock against the Yankees. Coming up next here on the Superstation, Sylvester Stallone stars as a truck driver turned professional arm wrestler.
It's a good movie.
In Over the Top. For Don Sutton, Pete Van Weeren, Joe Simpson, and our entire long-suffering TBS crew. Skip Carey from New York. So long, everybody.